John and Sarah were married for 5 years. John loved Sarah very much. He worked hard to make Sarah happy. John was a simple man. He did not have a lot of money, but he gave Sarah everything he had. Sarah was not happy. She always wanted more money. She always wanted more things. Sarah thought that John was not good enough for her. She wanted a rich husband. One day, Sarah met a rich man named Mark. Mark was very rich and had many big cars and a big house. Sarah liked Mark because he had a lot of money. She started talking to Mark every day. Sarah did not care about John's feelings. She only thought about herself. She wanted to leave John and be with Mark. John did not know this. He was busy working hard for Sarah. Sarah's heart was full of greed. She wanted more and more. She did not see the love John had for her. She only saw money and rich things. Sarah was not a good wife. She was a bad wife. John noticed that Sarah was always talking on the phone. She was always happy when she talked to Mark. But when she talked to John, she was not happy. John felt sad, but he did not know why Sarah was acting this way. One day, John asked Sarah, "Why are you always talking on the phone? Who are you talking to?" Sarah got angry and said, "It is none of your business. Stop asking me questions." John felt very sad. He loved Sarah and wanted to make her happy, but Sarah did not love him back. She was thinking about Mark and his money. She did not care about John's feelings. Sarah started to spend more time with Mark. She would go out with him and lie to John about where she was going. John believed Sarah because he trusted her. He did not know that she was lying to him. Sarah's greed grew bigger every day. She wanted to leave John and live with Mark. But Mark did not really love Sarah. He just liked to show off his money. Sarah did not see this. She was blinded by her own greed. Sarah started asking John for more money. "John, I need new clothes. I need new shoes. I need more money," she would say. John did not have a lot of money, but he gave her what he had. He wanted to make her happy. John worked extra hours to make more money. He was tired and stressed, but he did it for Sarah. He loved her very much. He thought if he gave her more money, she would be happy. Sarah took the money John gave her and spent it on expensive things. She bought clothes, shoes, and bags. She wanted to look rich when she was with Mark. She did not care that John was working so hard. One day, John came home early and saw Sarah with a new dress. "Sarah, where did you get that dress? It looks very expensive," he asked. Sarah got angry and said, "Why are you asking so many questions? Just give me more money." John felt hurt. He did not understand why Sarah was so mean to him. He loved her and did everything for her, but she was always unhappy. He did not know what else to do. Sarah was becoming more and more greedy. She did not appreciate John's love. She only wanted money. She was not a good wife. She was a bad wife. Sarah started to hide things from John. She would hide the expensive things she bought and lie about where she was going. She did not want John to know about Mark. One day, John found a bill for an expensive dress in Sarah's bag. "Sarah, we cannot afford this. "Why did you buy this dress?" he asked. Sarah got very angry. "It's my money. I can buy what I want," she shouted. John felt very sad. He did not understand why Sarah was acting this way. He loved her and wanted to make her happy. But Sarah did not love him back. She only cared about money. Sarah started to spend more time with Mark. She would go out with him and tell John she was with friends. John believed her because he trusted her. He did not know she was lying to him. One day, John's friends saw Sarah with Mark. He told John, "I saw Sarah with another man. They looked very happy together." John could not believe it. He trusted Sarah and loved her very much. But Sarah was not a good wife. She was a bad wife. She was full of greed and lies. She did not care about John's love. She only wanted more money. John was very upset after hearing his friend's news. He decided to talk to Sarah. He wanted to find out the truth. When Sarah came home, John sat her down and said, "Sarah, I heard you were with another man. Is it true?" Sarah was shocked. She did not expect John to find out. She quickly made up a lie. "John, it's not what you think. Mark is just a friend. We were talking about business," she said. John wanted to believe Sarah, but deep down, he felt something was wrong. He could see that Sarah was not the same woman he married. She was distant and always angry. John decided to give Sarah one more chance. He said, "Sarah, I love you very much. Please, let's try to fix our marriage. I will work harder to make you happy." Sarah pretended to agree. She smiled and hugged John, but in her mind, she was thinking about Mark and his money. She did not care about John's feelings. She just wanted more money and more expensive things. The next day, Sarah went to see Mark again. She told him about her conversation with John. Mark laughed and said, "Why do you stay with him? Leave him and come live with me. I can give you everything you want." Sarah was tempted. She liked the idea of living in a big house with lots of money. She started planning how to leave John. She did not care that John loved her and worked hard for her. She only cared about herself. At home, John continued to work extra hours to make more money for Sarah. He was tired and stressed, but he did it because he loved her. He did not know that Sarah was planning to leave him for Mark. Sarah's heart was full of greed. She was not a good wife. She was a bad wife. She only thought about money and rich things. She did not see the love and care John had for her. She was blinded by her own selfish desires. Sarah's plan to leave John became more elaborate. She started hiding money from him. She would take small amounts from John's wallet when he was not looking and save it. She also asked Mark for money, telling him she needed it to start a new life with him. Mark, enjoying the attention, happily gave her the money. John, meanwhile, noticed that his money was disappearing. He did not want to believe that Sarah was taking it, but he could not ignore the signs. He felt more and more distant from Sarah, but he kept working hard, hoping things would get better. One day, Sarah told John that she was going on a trip with some friends. She said she needed a break and some time to think. John was sad but agreed, thinking that maybe the time apart would help Sarah see how much he loved her. While Sarah was away, John decided to surprise her by fixing things around the house and making everything nice for her return. He hoped this would show Sarah how much he cared. He spent all his free time cleaning, repairing, and making their home more comfortable. Sarah, on the other hand, did not go on a trip with friends. She went to stay with Mark. She enjoyed the luxury of his big house, the fancy dinners, and the expensive gifts he gave her. She felt like she was living the life she always wanted. But Sarah did not realize that Mark was not serious about her. He liked having her around because she made him feel important, but he did not love her. He did not see a future with her. He just enjoyed the attention and the fun. One evening, while John was fixing a leak in the kitchen, he found a hidden stash of money behind some old boxes. It was the money Sarah had been taking from him. John felt a wave of sadness and anger. He realized that Sarah had been lying to him all this time. John decided to confront Sarah when she returned. He could not live with the lies anymore. He needed to know the truth, even if it hurt him. He loved Sarah, but he could not ignore what she was doing. Sarah came back from her trip with a fake smile on her face. She was planning to ask John for a divorce soon and move in with Mark. But when she walked into the house, she saw John standing there with the hidden money in his hand. "Sarah, we need to talk," John said, his voice shaking with emotion. "I found this money. I know you've been lying to me. I know you've been with another man." Sarah's face turned pale. She did not know what to say. She had been caught. She looked at John, but she did not feel any regret. She only felt anger that her plan had been discovered. John took a deep breath and said, "Sarah, I love you, but I cannot live like this. You have to choose. Do you want to stay with me and work on our marriage, or do you want to leave and be with him?" Sarah looked at John with cold eyes. She had already made her choice. "John, I want a divorce. I want to be with Mark. He can give me the life I deserve." John felt his heart break. He had done everything for Sarah, but it was not enough. He nodded slowly and said, "Okay, Sarah. If that's what you want, I won't stop you. But know this, I loved you with all my heart." Sarah did not care about John's feelings. She was happy that she could finally leave and live the life she wanted. She packed her things and left the house without looking back. John watched her go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. He knew he deserved better. He knew he deserved someone who loved him for who he was, not for what he could give. He realized that Sarah was not a good wife. She was a bad wife. And now he was free from her greed and lies. After Sarah left, John tried to move on with his life. It was hard at first because he still loved her, but he knew it was for the best. He focused on his work and hobbies to keep his mind busy. He started spending more time with friends and family who supported him and helped him through the difficult time. Sarah, on the other hand, was enjoying her new life with Mark. She loved the luxury and the attention. She spent Mark's money freely, buying clothes, jewelry, and other expensive things. She felt like she was living a dream. But as time passed, Sarah started to notice things about Mark that she did not like. He was often busy with his own affairs and did not spend much time with her. He was also very controlling, always wanting to know where she was and what she was doing. Sarah started to feel trapped. One day, Sarah asked Mark for more money to buy a new car. Mark looked at her and said, "Sarah, you are spending too much. You need to learn to manage your money better." Sarah was shocked. She had never been told no before. She felt angry and humiliated. She started to realize that maybe life with Mark was not as perfect as she thought. But she did not want to go back to John. She still wanted to live a rich life. Meanwhile, John was slowly finding happiness again. He reconnected with old friends and made new ones. He joined a local community group and started volunteering. He found joy in helping others and felt a sense of purpose. He also met a woman named Emily, who was kind and caring. They became friends and started spending more time together. Sarah noticed that Mark was becoming more distant. He was often away on business trips and sometimes did not even call her. She felt lonely and unloved. She started to miss the simple, genuine love that John had given her. She realized that she had made a big mistake, but her pride did not let her admit it. One evening, while Mark was away, Sarah decided to call John. She wanted to hear his voice and see if he still cared about her. She dialed his number with shaking hands. When John answered, his voice was calm and kind. "Hello, John," Sarah said, trying to sound casual. "How have you been?" John was surprised to hear from Sarah, but he remained polite. "I've been well, Sarah. How about you?" Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to tell John that she missed him, but she could not bring herself to say it. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just wanted to check on you." John could sense that something was wrong, but he did not want to get involved in Sarah's drama again. "I appreciate you calling, Sarah. Take care of yourself," he said and ended the call. Sarah felt a wave of sadness wash over her. She realized that John had moved on and was no longer under her control. She had lost a good man because of her greed and selfishness. John, on the other hand, felt a sense of closure. He knew that he had done everything he could to make Sarah happy, but she had chosen her path. As Sarah's relationship with Mark continued to deteriorate, she became more and more unhappy. Mark was often away, and when he was home, he was cold and distant. Sarah felt like she was living with a stranger. She missed the warmth and love that John had given her. One day, Sarah decided to confront Mark about his behavior. "Mark, why are you treating me like this? I thought you loved me," she said. Mark looked at her with a cold expression. "Sarah, I never promised you love. I gave you what you wanted, money and a luxurious life. If that's not enough for you, then maybe you should think about what you really want." Sarah felt a pang of regret. She realized that Mark had never truly loved her. He had only used her to show off his wealth. She had traded genuine love for material possessions, and now she was paying the price. Meanwhile, John and Emily's friendship was blossoming into something more. They enjoyed each other's company and shared many interests. Emily admired John's hard work and kind heart. She appreciated him for who he was, not for what he could provide. John felt happy and content with Emily. He realized that he had been missing out on true happiness while trying to please Sarah. With Emily, he felt loved and appreciated. He knew he had found someone special. Sarah, on the other hand, was becoming more desperate. She tried to win Mark's affection by buying him expensive gifts and dressing up in fancy clothes, but nothing worked. Mark remained indifferent and distant. One evening, Sarah decided to go through Mark's things while he was out. She found messages on his phone from another woman. Mark had been seeing someone else behind her back. Sarah felt a mix of anger and humiliation. She had left John for a man who did not love her and was now cheating on her. Sarah realized that she had lost everything because of her greed. She had destroyed her marriage with John, who truly loved her, and now she was alone and unloved. She felt a deep sense of regret, but it was too late to turn back. John, on the other hand, was planning a special evening for Emily. He wanted to show her how much he appreciated her. He cooked a nice dinner and invited her over. They spent the evening talking and laughing, enjoying each other's company. Emily looked at John and said, "John, you are a wonderful man. I'm so glad we met. You deserve all the happiness in the world." John smiled and took her hand. "Thank you, Emily. You've brought so much joy into my life. I'm grateful for you every day." As Sarah sat alone in Mark's big, empty house, she thought about the choices she had made. She realized that she had been blinded by her greed and had lost the most important thing in her life, true love. Sarah's life with Mark continued to crumble. Mark's infidelity was no longer a secret, and Sarah felt more isolated and miserable each day. She tried to confront Mark again, but he dismissed her concerns, telling her that she should be grateful for the lifestyle he provided. Sarah's mind often drifted back to her life with John. She remembered how he used to make her laugh, how he worked tirelessly to provide for her, and how he loved her unconditionally. She missed those simple, happy times and regretted her decision to leave him. One day, Sarah decided to visit John. She wanted to see if there was any way to mend the broken pieces of their relationship. She was desperate and willing to apologize for her mistakes. She knew it would be difficult, but she felt she had to try. Sarah drove to John's house, her heart pounding with nervousness. When she arrived, she saw John and Emily in the garden, laughing and working together. They looked happy and content. Sarah felt a pang of jealousy and regret. Gathering her courage, Sarah approached them. John looked up and was surprised to see her. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. Sarah took a deep breath and said, "John, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I thought I wanted a life of luxury, but I realize now that I gave up the most important thing, your love. Can you ever forgive me?" John looked at Sarah, feeling a mix of emotions. He remembered the pain she had caused him, but he also felt compassion for her. He glanced at Emily, who gave him a supportive smile. "Sarah," John said gently, "I appreciate your apology. I hope you find happiness, but I've moved on. I'm happy with Emily now." She loves me for who I am, and I love her." Sarah felt a tear roll down her cheek. She nodded, understanding that she had lost John forever. She had to face the consequences of her actions and find a way to move on with her life. John and Emily watched as Sarah walked away. John felt a sense of closure and peace. He knew he had made the right decision. He turned to Emily and took her hand. "Thank you for being here with me," he said. Emily smiled and hugged John. "I'll always be here for you," she said. Sarah drove back to Mark's house, feeling empty and alone. She knew she had to make changes in her life, but she did not know where to start. She realized that she had been a bad wife, full of greed and selfishness. She had to learn to be better, not just for herself, but for anyone who might come into her life in the future. John and Emily, meanwhile, continued to build their life together. They supported each other and found joy in the little things. John knew that he had found true happiness with Emily, and he was grateful for every moment they shared. Sarah had learned a hard lesson. She understood now that true love and happiness could not be bought with money. It had to be earned through kindness, respect, and genuine care for one another. She hoped that one day she would find a way to live a better life. Sarah felt lost after her visit to John. She realized that she had reached a turning point in her life. She could not continue living with Mark, who did not care about her. She decided it was time to leave him and start over. Sarah packed her bags and left Mark's house without saying a word. She did not know where she was going, but she knew she had to leave. She found a small apartment and moved in. It was a modest place, but it was a fresh start for her. Sarah began looking for a job. She had never worked before because she had always relied on John and then Mark for money. But now she realized she needed to be independent. She found a job as a sales assistant in a clothing store. It was not glamorous, but it was honest work, and she was determined to make it on her own. Working at the store was challenging for Sarah. She had to learn new skills and deal with customers every day. But she slowly started to enjoy it. She liked helping people find what they needed and seeing them leave the store happy. As time passed, Sarah started to change. She became more humble and grateful for what she had. She realized that material things did not bring true happiness. She began to appreciate the small things in life, like a kind word from a coworker or a sunny day. One day, Sarah saw Mark in the store. He was with another woman, looking at expensive clothes. Sarah felt a pang of sadness but quickly shook it off. She knew she had made the right decision to leave him. She no longer wanted a life based on money and lies. Mark saw Sarah and was surprised. "Sarah, is that you? What are you doing here?" he asked. Sarah looked at him calmly and said, "I work here now. I'm building a new life for myself." Mark laughed. "You? Working in a store? I never thought I'd see the day." Sarah smiled. "People change, Mark. I'm happier now than I ever was with you." Mark looked confused but did not say anything more. He walked away with the woman, and Sarah felt a sense of closure. She knew she was on the right path. Meanwhile, John and Emily's relationship grew stronger. They supported each other and enjoyed their time together. John felt a sense of peace and happiness that he had never felt before. He knew he had found someone who truly loved him for who he was. One day, Emily and John were walking in the park when they ran into Sarah. She was sitting on a bench, reading a book. John and Emily approached her. "Sarah, it's good to see you," John said kindly. Sarah looked up and smiled. "John, Emily, it's good to see you too." They sat down and talked for a while. Sarah told them about her new job and how she was trying to make a fresh start. John and Emily were happy to hear that she was doing well. "I'm sorry for everything," Sarah said. "I know I hurt you, John. But I'm trying to be a better person now." John nodded. "I'm glad to hear that, Sarah. Everyone deserves a second chance." Emily smiled and added, "It takes a lot of courage to start over." "I'm proud of you, Sarah." Sarah felt a warmth in her heart. She knew she still had a long way to go, but she was on the right path. She had learned from her mistakes and was determined to build a better life. As John and Emily walked away, Sarah felt hopeful for the first time in a long time. She knew that true happiness came from within and that she was capable of creating a better future for herself. She had been a bad wife, but now she was striving to be a better person. Sarah's journey to self-improvement continued. She worked hard at her job, gaining respect from her colleagues and customers. She also started taking evening classes to learn new skills. She wanted to improve herself and make sure she could build a stable and happy life on her own. One evening after class, Sarah was walking home when she saw a small community center. They were offering volunteer opportunities, and Sarah decided to join. She wanted to give back to the community and help others, hoping it would also help her grow as a person. At the community center, Sarah met many people who were kind and supportive. She enjoyed volunteering and felt a sense of fulfillment she had never felt before. She realized that helping others made her feel truly happy. Meanwhile, John and Emily's relationship continued to flourish. They spent weekends exploring new places, cooking together, and enjoying each other's company. John felt a deep sense of peace with Emily. They understood and supported each other in every way. One day, while volunteering at the community center, Sarah met an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson was lonely and needed help with her daily tasks. Sarah offered to help her with shopping, cleaning, and keeping her company. Mrs. Thompson was grateful for Sarah's help. She shared stories from her past and gave Sarah advice on life and love. Sarah felt a deep connection with Mrs. Thompson and enjoyed spending time with her. Through their conversations, Sarah learned a lot about kindness, patience, and the importance of genuine human connections. One day, while they were having tea, Mrs. Thompson asked Sarah about her past. Sarah hesitated at first but then decided to share her story. She told Mrs. Thompson about her greed, her mistakes, and how she lost John because of it. Mrs. Thompson listened carefully and then said, "Sarah, we all make mistakes. The important thing is that you've learned from them. You're working hard to be a better person, and that's what matters." Sarah felt a sense of relief. She had been carrying the burden of her past mistakes for a long time, and hearing those words gave her hope. She realized that she had the power to change her life and create a better future. Meanwhile, John and Emily were planning their future together. They decided to move in together and were excited about starting this new chapter in their lives. John felt happier than he had ever been and knew he had found true love with Emily. One evening, John and Emily went out for dinner to celebrate their decision to move in together. As they were leaving the restaurant, they ran into Sarah. She was with Mrs. Thompson, helping her with her groceries. John greeted Sarah warmly. "Sarah, it's good to see you. How are you doing?" Sarah smiled and introduced Mrs. Thompson. "This is Mrs. Thompson. I've been helping her out." "I'm doing well, John. Thank you." Emily joined the conversation. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Thompson. Sarah has told us a lot about the good work she's been doing." Mrs. Thompson smiled and said, "Sarah has been a great help. She's a wonderful person." John and Emily were happy to hear that Sarah was doing well. They chatted for a while, catching up on each other's lives. Sarah felt a sense of happiness and contentment she had not felt in a long time. She realized that she had come a long way from her past mistakes. After saying goodbye, Sarah walked Mrs. Thompson home. She felt grateful for the support and kindness she had received from the community and from people like John, Emily, and Mrs. Thompson. She knew she was on the right path and was determined to continue working on herself. Sarah continued to grow and change. Her work at the store and her volunteer efforts at the community center kept her busy, but she felt fulfilled and happy. She had made new friends and built a support network that helped her stay on the right path. One day, Sarah's manager at the store called her into the office. "Sarah, you've been doing a fantastic job. Your dedication and hard work have not gone unnoticed. We'd like to offer you a promotion." Sarah was thrilled. This promotion meant more responsibilities and better pay. She accepted the offer with gratitude and excitement. She felt proud of herself for how far she had come. With her new position, Sarah was able to save more money. She started thinking about furthering her education and possibly starting her own business one day. She was determined to make something of herself and build a stable future. At the community center, Sarah's dedication also did not go unnoticed. The center's director asked her to help organize a fundraising event. Sarah eagerly accepted the challenge and put all her energy into making the event a success. On the day of the event, the community center was buzzing with activity. Sarah had coordinated everything perfectly. The turnout was great, and they raised a significant amount of money for the center. Everyone praised Sarah for her hard work and organizational skills. As the event was winding down, John and Emily arrived. They had come to support the community center and were happy to see Sarah in action. John approached Sarah with a smile. "Sarah, this event is amazing. You've done a great job." Sarah felt a warm glow of pride. "Thank you, John. It means a lot to hear that." Emily joined them and added, "You've come a long way, Sarah. We're really proud of you." Sarah smiled, feeling truly happy. She realized that she had not only changed her life but had also earned the respect and admiration of those around her. She had turned her life around and was now on a path of kindness, hard work, and genuine happiness. As John and Emily left the event, Sarah felt a sense of closure. She knew that she had made mistakes in the past, but she had learned from them and had become a better person. She was no longer the greedy, selfish person she once was. She was now someone who cared about others and worked hard to make a positive difference. Sarah continued to work at the store, volunteer at the community center, and take classes. She was determined to keep improving herself and her life. She knew that she had the power to create a better future and was excited about the possibilities ahead. A few months later, Sarah's life was steadily improving. She had settled into her new role at work, continued her volunteer efforts, and maintained her evening classes. Her confidence grew, and she felt more in control of her life than ever before. One day, while Sarah was working at the store, a man named David walked in. He was new in town and looking for a gift for his sister. Sarah helped him find the perfect gift, and they struck up a conversation. David was friendly and charming, and Sarah found herself enjoying his company. David started visiting the store more often, and they became friends. They would meet for coffee and talk about their lives. David was kind and respectful, and Sarah felt a connection with him that she had not felt in a long time. As their friendship grew, Sarah confided in David about her past. She told him about her mistakes, her greed, and how she had hurt John. David listened without judgment and admired her honesty and determination to change. "Sarah, you've come a long way. It takes a lot of strength to admit your mistakes and work to better yourself. I think you're an incredible person," David said one evening over coffee. Sarah felt touched by David's words. She had worked hard to turn her life around, and hearing his support meant a lot to her. They continued to see each other, and their friendship slowly blossomed into something more. Meanwhile, John and Emily were planning their wedding. John proposed to Emily on a beautiful spring day, and she happily accepted. They decided to have a small, intimate wedding with close friends and family. When Sarah heard about John and Emily's engagement, she felt genuinely happy for them. She sent them a heartfelt congratulatory message and wished them all the best. She knew that they deserved happiness, and she was glad that John had found someone who truly loved and appreciated him. As Sarah's relationship with David grew, she found herself thinking about the future. She had learned from her past and knew what she wanted in life. She and David talked about their goals and dreams, and they realized that they wanted the same things: a stable, happy life built on love and mutual respect. One evening, while they were walking in the park, David turned to Sarah and said, "Sarah, I care about you deeply. I've seen how much you've changed and how hard you've worked to become a better person. I want to build a future with you." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She had been given a second chance at love and happiness. "David, I care about you too. I want to build a future with you as well." They hugged, and Sarah felt a sense of peace and contentment. She knew that she had finally found someone who loved her for who she was, not for what she had. Sarah and David's relationship continued to flourish. They supported each other in their personal and professional lives. Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment and happiness that she had never experienced before. David encouraged Sarah to pursue her dreams. He knew she had a talent for organizing events and suggested that she start her own event planning business. Sarah was hesitant at first, but with David's support and encouragement, she decided to take the leap. Sarah started small, planning events for friends and local businesses. Her attention to detail and ability to create beautiful, memorable events quickly gained her a reputation in the community. Her business grew, and soon she was planning weddings, corporate events, and community gatherings. One day, Sarah received a call from John. He and Emily wanted her to plan their wedding. Sarah was touched by their trust and was excited to help them create a special day. She worked tirelessly to make sure every detail was perfect, and the wedding was a beautiful celebration of love. As Sarah watched John and Emily exchange their vows, she felt a sense of closure. She knew that she had made mistakes, but she had also grown and changed. She was no longer the person she used to be. She had learned the true meaning of love, respect, and hard work. John and Emily's wedding was a success, and Sarah's business continued to grow. She and David moved in together and started planning their future. They talked about starting a family and building a life together. Sarah felt grateful for the second chance she had been given and was determined to make the most of it. One evening, while they were having dinner, David proposed to Sarah. He got down on one knee and said, "Sarah, you are the love of my life. Will you marry me?" Sarah felt tears of joy streaming down her face. "Yes, David, I will marry you." They celebrated their engagement and started planning their own wedding. Sarah knew that she had found true love with David. He respected her, supported her, and loved her for who she was. As Sarah looked back on her journey, she realized how far she had come. She had made mistakes, but she had also learned and grown from them. She had turned her life around and found happiness and fulfillment. Sarah and David's wedding was a beautiful celebration of their love and commitment. Surrounded by friends and family, they exchanged their vows and promised to support and love each other for the rest of their lives.